We're building a model railway from scratch. In this episode, it's time for the construction train and track work. I promised since the last episode I'd start with the plastering and have already prepared and modeled a bit. You can already see it a bit compared to the last episode. A little bit has happened at the facility. What happened? Let's take a quick detailed look at it from above, so you can clearly see where we were last time. Last time, we were actually here to cover this scaffold with the terrain crepe, which we had built here from small wooden slats, and I have already plastered over it here with a bit of granite plaster or granite-like plaster. It just needs to dry a bit more right now. With that, I also plastered the construction site hut here, because a construction site will be there later, so a half-finished house. And I used crinkle foil. Now I don't have any left, I've crumpled them all. It is in here. Look here, the mountain already looks a bit green on the side. Let's also quickly look at the other camera. Here you can see that up there is already a bit of green and grey and whatever. This is printed paper that you could crumple a bit, and then it turns into this kind of structure. Besides, I thought I'd try out two things. Because some of you like to plaster, you also have the opportunities to make a bit of a mess. At home, others prefer it cleaner. That's why I found another alternative, which is this here. So anyone who doesn't want to plaster can easily get something like this. This is a special coated film, a coated paper that can also be torn and crumpled again. I'm opening this up now, and you can just crumple that up nicely indeed. And then you actually get a construction as if you had plastered, only that you save yourself all the dirt and water in the workshop. And just there, where one can work only a little with the dirt, one can then also construct such a structure that then appears as though it's been meticulously plastered. I just did that around the facility here. Has another advantage. It's not as hard as plaster. That means if you want to clean up your system of this size again, you don't have to be careful not to get stuck on the wall and then somehow you've broken off a plaster rock. But you can shape the whole thing well with paper. And accordingly the structure remains light, and you also don't have the problem that plaster can break off, because there is no plaster on it at all. Nevertheless, I will do a bit of plastering, and indeed I have also started to plan a bit around the paper. Here you can see I've laid out a paper with transitions. I'll make them wetter right here. I have also meticulously wet plastered the transitions here, and then I took some durable black duct tape here and carefully taped off the tracks. With the great advantage, this tape does not tear as quickly. This tape, such as a crepe tape for example, that means I can peel off the tape while the plaster is still dry or wet, and in this way I make sure that no plaster gets on the tracks, because that's not so great for the track. Then the train doesn't run quite as well. Moreover, you can see here, I have protected my signal a bit. I also protected it once with a small plastic bag on top. I didn't need to fully dismantle it, just put a plastic bag over it. This way, if I mess with the plaster, it won't hit my signal or cause damage. And now we're returning all to safety valuable and dear to us. For example, our train. I'll turn off the mobile station for now. Then the electricity is gone from the plate again. And then we'll move our little locomotive back to me. And I also brought a small station lamp or a street lamp because I wanted to show you in the next episodes or sometime how to connect something like this and then also how to turn it on and off even with the mobile station. Let's see if we get around to it today or not, depending on how much time we have. So, first of all, I'm going to continue with the plaster, and now I'm just going to take a small worktop here and put it down here so we can protect the tracks a bit when I add some ready-made plaster at the back, and then I can cover the layout a bit in this way. So, our construction trailer also has to briefly step aside. I organized for myself from this starter pack of this crafting supplies, just like that, a taping knife. Now you can say, that's just normal plaster, that's just white plaster. No, not quite, because it's a bit about how long you can work with it, how long it actually takes to dry before you can move in. Because with it you can now model really beautiful rocks or even model a path, which means it just takes a bit longer to dry, and then we can model it nicely and you can safely use a bit less water, then it stays nice and firm and you can model it properly. I can actually show you that right away at these various white spots. So, now, I genuinely need some water first, before proceeding. That's the topic. Here in the workshop, I've no water. So now I'm taking bottled tap water I brought in bottles. I'll just fill this in a bit here on the back and stir it up. The plaster, you'll forgive me for this, I won't touch it now on the railway plate. I do that here behind the scenes indeed because I don't want to slightly spill the plaster powder on the system. That's why I'll do this quickly here at the back of the counter. So just cut it open, put some water in already. I'm not the plaster professional, there are probably masons who can do that better, but I'll just try to put a little bit into it. Into the water then, quite interestingly, it doesn't dust as much, does it? So the mixing ratio is essentially eyeball times pi for me. And then I just try things out. Where has my spatula been? There is a spatula. And now I'm just going to stir in it a bit until it becomes pudding-like. That's way too wet. Then just add more. I put excessively much water in at the beginning. So puddling, as Pumakel would say. And in it goes. So, and yes, that already looks better. I'll be right back to you. Then I'll show that on camera. But there's such a mess back there. I don't want to do that on the system. There's still room for more in here. I like it firmer. So the advantage is, if it's a bit wetter, you can just pour it over the system. But we don't want to just build cast plates, we actually want to model it a bit. And that's precisely why it's okay for it to look a bit pudding-like here on the side. I'll hold that up for you so you can watch a bit. I don't know if you can see that in the camera reasonably well or not, but nom nom nom. So, this is going to be a good pudding mix. Now it's almost a bit too much, but that doesn't matter, we can still model it nicely. So now I'll start where I left off earlier, namely here at the top of the page, and now I can just model it right here. I'm now also combining two different types of plaster, namely once this type that looks like granite rocks, and the other, this is now this white mounting putty that we have here, and I can just nicely take it, and could also shape my rock again in this way, and press it on here like this. The advantage, if combined, lets you camouflage creased rocks. Now it looks bad on camera, so I'll add it here. And of course we can repaint that later as well. Then we simply have no way to distinguish by eye where the paper begins, where the crepe tape ends. Where does it continue with the plaster? It looks like a real rock. That can also be combined with hard foam rocks that you can buy. And then it all looks very cool. Crafted something bigger here. Can we model that onto this later? So, and then I make a transition here to a road or to a green space, whatever ultimately ends up there later. I'm doing this a bit on a large scale here so that you can see how you can then nicely model into this plaster later on. Like a sculptor, I can then behave just like that. So, here again on the side, that's where the construction site will precisely go. And then we can really take this down nicely. Now I can also plaster the path here, just a bit more. Then, later on, I might also have a texture paste here, which interestingly, I could also apply directly onto the floor. I can make it a bit dirtier here too. Then, it also looks a bit like uneven ground at the construction site afterwards, and I can put a bit of it on here as well. So, the same here. It doesn't have to go all the way up to the granite. That might be a little unrealistic. And then we can put this here like this. So what position did I want that? Here in front. Look, here at the front on the side, you can't see it well on the camera, but I'll try quickly. I also do that a bit to create the transition between this particular paper and the track layout, effectively. So now I just fill in these gaps here. You notice I still had the plaster from the granite underneath. That's why my cast is still a bit black on the side here. But that doesn't matter at all, because a model paint color will be applied over it later anyway. And then you can combine this very nicely here, and then it doesn't really stand out anymore that we have used something else there. Except for plaster, it saves time. As said, you can take this structure foil and then later go over it with white glue and stick lots of grasses on it or put something on it, also with hot glue. But it looks very nice around the edges too. Here at the front, I'll just add more plaster, do a bit of spackling. This stuff, known as joint compound, comes in various colors. As previously mentioned, I've now selected Knox White variant. The company also offers it in grey, like granite rocks. There is also one from Bush and from Heki. They're also available in colors, so they're a bit green and brown, then you don't need to paint over it later. You can also actually do what you prefer, just attempt it out. It's always important to me that it dries so well. And once you've identified one you can collaborate effectively with, then I would recommend experimenting with it, to carefully observe what the optimal consistency ought to be like. That, for example, would now be far too fluid again. It feels more like a milkshake here on this side and less like a pudding. And if it's like pudding, then a mousse au chocolat, in terms of consistency, would actually be perfect. Indeed, we're seeking more of that unique charm, more mousse, and decidedly less of the milkshake, emphasizing a preference for quality over quantity.
So, mehr davon. So.
There, the package is already empty, but I've a second one. Interestingly, it seems that they've got me as a reserve, so now it's going to be, quite intriguingly, pudding-like, isn't it? Yes, now comes the delightful pudding mixture. So, I'm coming back to you, and then I have to be a bit careful now, because at this moment, I'm getting dangerously close to my track. That's why I'm mixing that up. You can also tape everything shut, so in the best case, you all tape off the tracks. What I just did, it's not so great that I only taped off a part. That's why I really have to be a bit more careful now. But sometimes I'm quite a klutz too. That's precisely why I'm being a bit more careful now, so that absolutely nothing adverse happens to me there. So here I am, just making a nice smooth transition from that. Paper down to the wood and that just settles in here a bit. I just made that up. Honestly, I haven't read that in any construction manual, but it somehow feels like you could indeed do that. And the beauty is, with such a model hobby, you're your own builders. You decide what you like and try things. And if you don't like it, then you just tear it down and build over it again. Or just build another plant 6 months later or 2 years. However you feel like it, some individuals also keep building a new diorama and then try it out once again. So I didn't stick a slide over it now. Let's go here. Then you can see this transition quite well. Or rather, not as good anymore. And then later on you can add a bit of grass and embankment and everything else over it. So here's a little more detail. So I'm carefully covering this specific area up here with the paper at that spot. The only important thing is it then has a similar structure and is also a bit wrinkly. Then you can't see at all what I used there. It also saves plaster, so I don't need to mix much for the rest with paper. This is a relatively new story. Crinkle papers available from Heki, Fala, Nock and other model railway accessory manufacturers have been on the market for years. Can you guys organize something there? Could you possibly do it with a different paper as well? I have no idea how they manufacture it, but just be creative. You will find the right material and you can do it. You can also cut up old cardboard boxes. If you've had anything delivered from online orders, take an old box and use it as a base. Works well. Now I'm putting something back here right away. With that, my gap is closed. And you see, the plaster, the drier it gets, the more malleable. Do you say modeling? No, I don't think that word exists, just made it up. Creativity's limitless. So, anyway, what did I want to say? Exactly. The drier the plaster gets, the more beautifully it can be modeled. Then he comes up with this. I'm stepping out with you for a bit. Hope you can recognize something there. Otherwise, I'll show it to you later with the camera when it's a bit more finished. I really wanted to hurry to connect a street lamp with you, maybe in this episode. Maybe we can still make it. Now I'm getting dangerously close to the signal that I didn't tape off. But let's give it a try. So, you can already write to me in the comments where your facility is currently in the construction progress if you feel like it. Then I can always read along a little bit. We have already said, so I will try to answer your comments as quickly as possible. The colleagues from Märklin also respond, so that we can indeed support you a bit if you need help with building your model railway. If you have questions, just write them in the comments. If there are no wishes for what should come out, don't forget we can't always implement everything right away, because the wish list is long. But if there are questions about the construction of the facility, we can happily address them here in the comments. So, now we're really going to make it fancy here. Overly professional here, almost. No, not quite. More like a confectionery art that comes to mind now. So, close here there. Then we have a transition. Later to the diorama edge, to the layout edge. A tree will likely be planted there later. Let's see. If nothing else works, put a tree on it. What's missing? Oh, there was something else. And indeed, here one could certainly still make a rather pleasant transition, couldn't they? Yes, exactly. There is still a bit too much granite. So, and now I have to be a little careful. Now my cover plate is coming off here because I also had something planned here. And I had just taken a small wall here. Look over here. I'll show you a wall. Initially, I purchased it as an exceptionally huge piece and only utilized a very, very minuscule amount of it indeed. So, I've been very, very frugal with it. This particular wall, you can cut it precisely to size with a craft knife. And if you happen to have a hairdryer or a heat gun, then you can gently blow on it. And then you can also slightly bend it a bit afterwards. So if I bend it now, it breaks. But unsure if seen by the ceiling camera. I think so. Look there. We have some pieces of the wall here. We bent those. That is exactly what I cut off here. That would be one way to do this here. And then I had a little bit left over. I just put that here as a base. If using a heat gun or a hairdryer is too wild for you, then there's also something like this. Look over here. These are strips of brick paper. This is such a 3D film, such a relief-like film. You can then simply glue them on with an adhesive. With a regular craft glue, you can easily stick them onto a cardboard sheet. Then make them thicker. I've crafted that often. And one can imitate a brick wall this way, for example. So you can indeed do that with these rigid foam boards. They look naturally very, very absolutely fantastic. You can also do that with a paper cover and then stick it on. So, and while I'm babbling here, we're letting the plaster dry. Who would think of something like that? So pay attention, it's going to get a bit tricky here. Now I'm actually putting the plaster in here on this plate so that I have a nice transition here. And I'm plastering this uncoupling track, not the whole track, but this part a little bit, so that I have some structure on it afterwards. And I specifically put this crepe thing underneath, or this duct tape, so that I can quite easily peel it off nicely later. So, if it doesn't turn out to be absolutely perfect right now, don't cry. You can always paint over it later, or just add some tufts of grass. These are very model-like and are often seen in nature, particularly on a railway embankment, where a lot of diverse shrubbery grows abundantly. So, now here, just a little bit more. Then I'll take the rest of the stuff now before I open a new pack. And we'll somehow manage to camouflage the rest, just like I meticulously explained just now. Now we'll add a little bit more to that, and carefully plaster this here a bit more. And then we'll see that we now clear it out nicely and then fix the rest with tufts of grass or something else. So again, just that we have a nice transition here, that it's not all paper. But you will see later, or rather you will not see, that there is a difference there. So you really won't see that later on. What is paper there now and what is plaster? So there are just different paths to the goal. And I'm plastering this here a bit so that later on in the transitions you can see that you see nothing. That's essentially the plan now on my side. I need just a little less plaster than initially anticipated. So at this point it's just the last 2-3 little bar lines left to add, which is quite manageable. So that's enough now. That can now dry on its own until I wash it off later. And then the plaster can dry out here too. Here in front, that means here, oh, I can still model. Look, I can still model this nicely in here. I put that on here 5 minutes ago, and it's still not dry enough that I couldn't comfortably model on it. I can now fit this in really nicely here, from the structure. That is exactly what I wanted, how I imagined it. That is exactly so indeed. Here's just a little more insight. And now, I would simply and carefully peel off this particular duct tape, this specific wart tape, ensuring it does not cause any unnecessary discomfort. As long as the plaster is not completely dry, it does not crumble and break apart, but then I can still quite nicely remove it now without much trouble. So, let's take it off and see what emerges from underneath. Very carefully, because there's still a bit of dry and wet underneath. Oh, that's almost a bit too much. I can clearly see right here. Honestly, I would almost go at it once again with a completely clean spatula and gently move it a bit away from the track, ensuring precision. Not that a steam locomotive can't really get through later, because it says, what were you actually thinking? So, we'll put that over there on the side. And we'll take that down a notch as well. Not that the locomotive derails later because it says that's too high for me, I can't get past that. Can still be removed later, but it's easier now. So, what are we doing next? I would say, next we'll proceed to make light. And with the assistance of a lightweight decoder, we meticulously create some visually appealing light effects on the model railway. So, I'm carefully extracting the tape here a bit earlier. Now even our train could potentially go on a test run again quite soon. Light decoder, that is precisely what I intended to convey. Exactly. So we can effortlessly turn the light on and off on the model railway, either by simply turning the power on and off, just like normal from the railway, or by taking a decoder that is normally required for signals. I brought one along once. You might have already seen him in one of the previous video episodes, or maybe not yet. Otherwise, I'll show it to you right away. This is a decoder, to which you can usually connect signals. So, let's just carefully unpack this one. That's precisely what it looks like, actually quite similar to all the other decoders too. I'll just briefly set aside the instructions and the warranty information, and then quickly grab a small hobby signal so you can clearly see what I mean. So here is such a test track, and on this test track, you now see such a small track lock signal right here on the side. And this track lock signal, for example, if you want to turn out it with the mobile station, you could now connect it to this decoder. Then this just goes right on the front. And now this signal can already be turnouted with ease using this M84 decoder. It doesn't matter at all what kind of signal that is. I brought a second one so you could see the packaging. That's what they look like. So this is the Märklin Startup series. These are the very simple small signals, also available as a light block signal here. And you can seamlessly connect it with an M84 decoder quite easily. Interestingly, this particular decoder can do a bit more. It can also turn lights on and off, which is not a signal. And with that, we can, for example, beautifully turn out the interior lighting in a train directly via the mobile station as well, seamlessly. That means we are not connecting a signal here now, like this. I'll zip that away again, but we can plug a cable in here on the left side where it is red, or on the right side where it is green, and in the middle we simply take the second cable from a lamp and can say, for example, the yellow cable from the lamp comes directly here in red or green, and the brown cable, which I'll show you in a moment, we'll just wire that up quickly, then goes somewhere else. We'll just do this live right here on camera, and I'll mess up quite stupidly, so you can see right away what mistakes can be made. So, what exactly do we need? We need two cables, a yellow one and notably a brown one. So, that's precisely what we need at this moment. And indeed, we still have to connect this decoder to the track, which is somewhat difficult for me right now, primarily because I don't currently have a track connected here. It doesn't really matter. Then I'll take a fresh track. If I can find one more quite swiftly. Find. So, here I actually have one. Very good. I found another one to establish a connection with. I'll just connect that to my mobile station right now. And then I can connect this decoder directly to the track. I'll show you how it's done. For that purpose, we now absolutely need to acquire a brown one and also a red cable. So brown is already there. We still have red here. And indeed, I need two more flat plug sockets. Additionally, I'll take these two flat plug sleeves off the shelf here, right now, without delay. Then I need small pliers. You're noting all that's needed, so wait, what did he say? A pair of pliers, just like that one. These flat plug sleeve scraps, that's what they look like. This is series number 74995, if you're looking for accessories. And those are indeed the small gold-colored flat plug sleeves in there. We actually need precisely two of those now. And with those, we can now, for example, connect the decoder directly to the track. But you saw in the previous episode, I've already connected all decoders under the system. That essentially means I could also potentially connect it underneath the board later on and then securely attach it there. So now I genuinely need a crimping tool and a wire stripper to proceed. Here we are, right at the beginning. Let's start by carefully stripping a brown cable. Ditch it. And interestingly enough, we can already move forward in connecting this particular brown cable with a screwdriver. And right here, precisely where there is a distinct brown spot on the decoder at the front, it's always the same how these decoders are connected. They just need a connection to the track's electricity, and then we'll connect them. So, we'll make this brown on the side. Let's screw this on quickly. Don't know if you can see this now. There's just so much in the picture here. I'll just set that aside for the moment. So, here we're about to gently open up the section on the side where it's turned brown. and then we'll carefully twist this wire in here, ensuring it's properly aligned before we proceed to screw it back on securely. So, I'll demonstrate to you precisely where it is, on which side. Now the brown wire is indeed in here. And we can now carry out the identical process on the other side, utilizing the track to ensure symmetry. I'll make it really brief now, so you've seen the principle at least once, and it is reconnected. On the other hand, I am currently cutting the brown wire very short, and am now taking another flat plug sleeve again, simply. Look how I take them in my hand. I'll simply put it in the pliers here so I can hold it better. And now I just take this little brown wire and lay it right here. Now, I have to take another look, otherwise I see nothing. And pull this one in really tight, then press hard so that it is securely held in place by this compression. I'm engaging in that activity now with the red one as well. So let's carefully see where the two ends are. Yes, indeed, who cleaned that up? So, well, there's an end. And let's isolate that briefly with this tool here. Twist that around briefly and screw the other side on, where it's red on top. So, I'll proceed to do it a bit further up so that you can clearly see it. So, where it's red, I briefly open it up, gently insert the wire at the bottom, and then meticulously screw the entire thing back together right away, without delay. There, red. Here, brown. And now, it holds too. And now, we proceed to make it just as long as the other one here, and then briefly separate it, also insulating the red wire, carefully. And now, we'll just proceed to do the exact same thing once more. It's worth noting, repetition significantly contributes to making one exceptionally knowledgeable. And now, this one precisely goes right in here, exactly at that designated spot, ensuring a seamless fit. And I'll make that one really tight again. Press firmly once, then it will hold here too. And now, I can simply and effortlessly connect this decoder directly underneath the track, where I can conveniently plug in my flat plug sleeves without any hassle. So, you might have remembered it from the other episodes. Where B stands, here B stands very small on the side. Look here, there is a small B to read under the number. The red cable, it goes right in there. And where the 0 is clearly indicated, that's precisely where the brown cable should be placed. And on the other side of the track, I can now indeed effortlessly connect with my mobile station. I prepared that with 2 short plugs, so that I can easily screw it under the system later. I could indeed perform that anywhere here on the premises now. So, no matter where I am, I could just connect the decoder here to the track, or I could actually do it under the board. I just don't want to turn it over right now while the plaster is still wet. So, at this precise moment, I simply proceed to connect my track box or my ring circuit, depending on how you've thoughtfully assembled it. And then, I'll proceed to take the track box over here, and now I'll just take it. Now, I didn't actually put any sleeves on it, whatever, I'll do it this way. This is quite a patchwork now, but it's indeed enough for the test configuration. Connect this very momentarily here with the 2 red and brown connectors. This is a patchwork. Please don't do it like that. You are doing a wonderful job with plugs and sockets. I actually brought some with me. Look over here, a large pack of plugs and sockets, so you know the difference between a plug and a socket. This is actually a sleeve. That's precisely what they look like. That means you can insert it there, and accordingly, you would now simply take a red plug and use it, and connect it very nicely with a red sleeve. Then, you can extend a cable very nicely in this manner, and then also run it beneath the system, as you may have observed in the last episode. So here it was really quick. That works too, but please, it shouldn't be forever. But then after this test setup, I'll nicely rebuild it back under the system. So, now our decoder has power. As soon as I connect my mobile station, I'll just put it aside here and clear away some cables, ensuring you have a better orientation of what is precisely supposed to be on the table. We don't need the color red anymore. We simply don't need the flat plug connectors anymore either. So, we'll carefully clear those items away down there. We absolutely need it again next time. Okay, here's precisely what comes next. Where's my station lantern? Where has she hidden herself? Let's actually take those. There is certainly another one. And unpack them sometime. That's what it looks like when you unpack it. Just a normal street lamp, simple in this case. And it has a small base at the bottom. And on this base is a small strand with a brown and a yellow cable.
Strang mit einem braunen und einem gelben Kabel.
And indeed, we can pull that off right here now. You should put that under the plate so it holds better. And now, we can just carefully take the lantern right out of the package here, ensuring it's handled with care. And you see, it has a base where you can detach it easily. That is very, very practical. Then we don't have to try that with the entire lantern, but we can now first assemble this plug completely, and then we can plug the lantern in somewhere and sink it into the ground here. So, now one could do the following. One could try to connect this lantern right here directly to the decoder. But that would not actually accomplish anything, because this decoder, first and foremost, requires an additional connection to what's known as a so-called light transformer. We have a light transformer, and right here, a former Märklin transformer, which could be used to control the analog trains, also helps in this case. Because you can also just connect light to the back, light articles, and I have already prepared 2 cables there. That means, essentially, we can now take this particular light transformer here, I'll just connect it to the power, as usual, and then place it over here for a moment, so you can see it clearly. I'll just insert that right back there, into my socket. And now, a yellow and a brown cable are materializing out here at the back. I have already given you a glimpse of that in the last episode. These 2 cables come out here now. So, and these 2 cables, I could now connect them with the lantern. Let's do that now by quickly twirling that in there and see if the lantern is already working. We could just put a plug on it now or not. So, we do it differently, we do it right immediately. We are actually getting a distribution board because you might not just want to connect one lantern, but indeed many lanterns. And correspondingly, we will indeed do it without any delay whatsoever and ensure we get ourselves yet another accessory. I'll show you what it looks like first. These are distro plates you can see here. That's how they look. And these distributor plates, where they are sharp, that's where you can recognize them. Exactly, you just get a few of those. I've now taken 2 in hand, and there you can nicely tap off the electricity. And we're just going to do that now by me doing this with this light. That means essentially I take a yellow cable and a yellow plug, and then just distribute it on the yellow side accordingly. And I proceed to do the same with the brown side, spreading it evenly on the designated brown distribution plate. So, now I can connect my lamp here. And now, for example, I could take a screwdriver again, and without any haste, gently attach a brown plug to the lantern. Although, really, there's absolutely no need to rush here. Just calmly and carefully attach a brown plug to the lantern. So, I'll do this as well and as visibly and clearly as possible. So, well, that's certainly a fiddly job. Let's take a quick, yet insightful look at how you can best see that. So indeed that holds. We'll do that now with the yellow one too, with the yellow plug. So, I'll try to guide you closer to our goal. Right there, you can see the yellow plug. Let's carefully take that plug, ensuring we have a good grip, and then we proceed to screw it in securely, making sure it's tightened properly without any wiggle room. This is indeed very, very delicate, but after all, it's not for nothing that we're doing miniature here. For the moment, it holds. Now we can first see if the lantern is indeed already connected by simply plugging it in at the yellow socket, and we also just plug it in at the brown one to confirm. Now I just have to see if I turned on the transformer or not. Not yet. But now my street lamp is shining. Here you can clearly see this. I can now effortlessly turn them on and off, simply with the good old Märklin transformer. Here with this plug or with this turnout on the side. So, and now we don't want to do this with this in the future, but in the future we want to turn on many street lamps individually, or for example we want to turn the lighting of a tool shed or a construction site on and off, or we can turn moving figures on and off. That means, essentially, we have to slightly modify this a bit now. What exactly shall we do about it, though? Let's just take one brief moment. Further enhance the wiring harness configuration and proceed to change a relatively small section of the wiring. This can also be found in the detailed guidance manual of this M84. Briefly explained, and I'll open that now, because indeed there is something in there that we can closely look at. And indeed you can actually see here on this page very, very nicely that indeed was the Spanish instructions, but that doesn't matter at all, because you see the picture remains the same in all languages. Then we'll do it in Spanish, and I'll just explain it to you in German, just like it's supposed to look. Here you can see this picture below. Here we see the cable. Down here, indeed, here you can slightly see it. It carefully goes into the middle. This middle cable, it has to go to the light transformer, and the cable that goes to the side, left or right, in this case left, that goes to the lantern. So we just have to rebuild it like that now. Let's just try that now. Hopefully we plug it in the right way around. If we plug it in the wrong way, it simply won't work. That's exactly why we're trying it out. So, what was that? The one cable from the lantern, let's take the yellow one, we now unplug from the light transformer. We're taking this down now, and we're just going to carefully position it on the M84 decoder that we currently have right here. So, to the left side. Look over here, there are several pages. There is red and green. This is left, this is right, and this precisely is the middle. And without further ado, we can now seamlessly connect this cable right in the middle. But I'm not doing that with yellow now, I'm doing it with brown. For whatever reason, I'll tell you in a moment. We're now taking... Should I make it yellow? I'm just looking. Need to pee. Sorry. Yellow shows the direction in the background. Indeed, yellow. Notice my color mix-up today. So we'll plug it back. Yellow goes here. Oh yes, that's right. Because the yellow cable then comes from the transformer above. So unscrew this once again here. Now allow me to show you the yellow cable from the lantern in here. I'll enthusiastically show you right away what it looks like when it's fully connected. So, screwed in then. Nothing is happening yet. Now, the lantern is securely connected. On one side with the M84, utilizing the yellow cable, and on the other side, if we take a quick look from above, it is connected to the brown cable that leads into this light transformer here. So, let's leave it there. Then you'll see it right away when it lights up. Now we take another yellow cable. Now we somehow have to ensure we get the luminous flux into this M84. And to that, I'll just make myself a bright yellow cable, and then I'll carefully plug it into the very middle. As it was just described in the instruction manual, this opens up here in the middle. You're not seeing it quite right, that's why I'm showing it again here from the front. Then plug in here. And then it continues right here. And now we have the cable strategically positioned directly in the very center. And this middle cable, we'll just go ahead and reconnect it now with our distribution board, and thereby we will draw the power for the yellow cable directly from this existing analog transformer, which interestingly we can also utilize as a lighting transformer with Märklin. So it's a bit of a crafting project what we're doing now, but that too is a nice story that you do a bit of everything. So first a bit of modeling is done, then a bit of plastering, then a bit of track planning and so on and so forth. And in this way we have a very nice varied hobby and have spent our afternoon in a very varied way. And on this occasion we have installed and buried 400 filled flat plug sleeves and connectors. So just quickly put the wire in here again. Screw on, and now we plug it in over there, precisely where our lantern was just moments ago. So now I'm going to tidy up a bit here so you can see it clearly, because it has become a bit cluttered now. I'm tidying up a bit so you can get a good look at this wiring. So here is our light transformer. This particular light transformer goes out once in a vibrant yellow and once in a deep brown, once leading to the distribution plate. A yellow cable goes from the distribution plate to my M84 decoder, and the brown cable only goes into the lantern. That is, without a doubt, unmatched anywhere else. So, now my M84 decoder still requires power to the track by simply connecting it to any one of these tracks without any hassle. And now, I'm just going to simulate that particular process by carefully connecting this track here at the back somewhere, or alternatively, taking another connecting track for my track box. I'll just do that here now by plugging it in. I just did that a few minutes ago. I just wanted to tidy it up briefly so you can see what's happening here. So, now my decoder is actively receiving electrical power directly from the system, simply by the action of me turning on my mobile station, ensuring a seamless integration and operation. So, and you see the decoder is starting to blink now. That's all good like that. That's how he should behave. And now, I can easily click on this particular turnout symbol right here on my mobile station, up here. And with that, I can actually transition magnetic items, that's what it's called. And now I'm just going to my first magnetic article, because this is essentially my first plug up here, and turn out here to red, green, red, green. And as you hear and see, nothing is happening yet, because this decoder up here, it still needs an address. You have already seen that in the other videos, with the signals, with the turnouts, what it always looks like. This particular decoder is equipped with a piano that features numerous tiny DIP turnouts on the back side here. And now, we have to accurately set them to the precise address that our turnouts are specifically supposed to have. Now from above, view the facility to count our assets. Many magnetic articles are present. Here's turnout 1, magnetic article 1. This is turnout 2, our magnetic article 2 that we have here. Turnout 3, magnetic article 3. Turnout 4, magnetic article 4. Switch 5, switch 6. Then, we also have the uncoupling track, which, interestingly, we can also supply with the digital circuit if needed. That means we are already at 7, and then we have a signal at 8, and we have another signal back there. Then, we are already at 9. That means anything beyond 10 would now be exactly the perfect address for our light decoder, so that we can later turn the light on and off on the mobile station as well. Means, we're taking the instruction manual again, wherever I have put them now, whether it's in Spanish, German or English, and look a little further back in this booklet to see what it precisely says. And then, we have here, we have a table. This is more or less self-explanatory in all languages. Look here, we have the addresses 1 to 4, 5 to 8, 9 to 12, and I would now take 9 to 12. So 9 to 12 means our two turnouts, 1 and 2. Must stand above. That's what it looks like. And what does that look like on the piano back there? That means we'll just have to turn the two of them upwards then. There is another important piece of information. The one we currently have, namely, in which specific protocol this particular decoder is turnouted. And indeed, we have the precise information here. Is it a DCC, or is it actually a Motorola MM? This is the last key, the 10th. Set to off, with top on, bottom off. It indicates a Märklin Motorola protocol. So now we just have to look at the back of the decoder to see what it says, what would have been set. For instance, everything was turnouted either to on or to off. I'll take a quick yet thorough look with my eyes, ensuring I can see it too. At this moment, everything is on, and we've clearly stated, without any exceptions, our intention to turn absolutely everything off. So now I take the tiny screwdriver and first of all, gently and carefully push all these buttons down. So down, 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 down. So, except for the first two, because that was just in the instructions for use. That should be the address 9 to 12. So, and now I hope it works. If it doesn't work, we'll just keep trying until it does. We'll make it work, as we did with the last videos. Now turning my mobile station back on, let's see if everything's connected. Yes, my decoder is blinking again. This is good news. That means he has electricity. And now, I can simply navigate through my keyboard on my mobile station by pressing right here on the top right. Then you no longer see 1, 2, but 2 and 3, 3 and 4, 5 and 4, 5 and 6, 6 and 7, 7 and 8, 8 and 9. And now, we are slowly on the right side. That means if I see 9 and 10 here now, this is the 9 and that is the 10. And now, I should indeed be able to click right here. And as you can see, it immediately starts to brightly light up here at the very top. So it's already correct here. The only thing that is still not right is that my lantern is shining. Now let's check again if I had turned it on or not. And it was because of my light transformer, which I had just turned off because I simply turned off the power. So, in this way, I am now fully capable of controlling the illumination on my model railway directly with the mobile station, utilizing the M84, and can endeavor to turn out on individual lamps separately. That means I would still have 1, 2, 3 slots free and could potentially establish connections with 2, 3 more of such lightweight articles. But theoretically, I could also connect the second lamp to the right, meaning when one is on, the other goes off. When one goes out, the other comes back on. That means you have a turnout back and forth. For example, the light should come on back there, then it goes off at the front on this occasion. So now I'll tidy everything up a bit, let the plaster dry, and in the next episode we'll meet and start to address the topic of embellishment, road, concrete color, or landscaping with texture pastes, colors, and so forth. For this, the plaster needs to dry a bit now, and in the meantime, I can start organizing a few things again, and in this way also tidy up the other decoders under the board. Until the next episode, have fun and write in the comments what you want to know. See you. That could be done again during the test drive, couldn't it? Things are actually running smoothly here again. I like to go for a little drive, so I just have to connect it to the other plate.